welcome to EQ 101. Welcome back if you have been here. This is week number 5 for us. If this is your first time joining, welcome. I am your coach, Erin. I am an attorney turned emotional intelligence and relationship coach. And so now what I do is I help people improve their communication, their conflict resolution skills, and their connection with their partner through the lens of emotional intelligence. And so even though most of what I do is within the context of romantic relationships, regardless of your relationship status, you can benefit from what I do for 2 reasons. One, this stuff works for any type of relationship, right? I first learned about emotional intelligence in the workplace, and that's usually where it is taught. And so that's one. So even if you're not in a romantic relationship, you can still use it for the relationship with your children, your parents, your friends, whomever. The second reason that you can still learn from my class is that even though I work with people in their relationships, everything that I do is on an individual level. All right. I firmly believe that most things that people believe are relationship problems aren't really relationship problems. It usually comes down to one or both persons' area of growth. So like when you have communication issues, right? It's one or both of you do not know how to communicate, right? So it's not really a relationship thing. So everything that I do is on the individual level, is on the self-awareness level. So even if you are not in a relationship, you can still benefit from the work that we do here together. So I teach class every Thursday. Yes, I jumped on the wagon when Dr. Barlow announced her class. I know that at one point it had turned into Hillman Talk University or TikTok University, whatever you wanted to call it. I had already, announced my class. Whether you are still going along with that, doesn't matter. I'm still going to teach my class. So all you have to do is show up every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and we are going to have class. If you join my membership community, the EQ for Love membership community, you have the option of joining us on Zoom. And then my membership community, they also get, I don't have them in my hand, they also get like supplemental handouts to go along with the lesson. So if that is something that you are interested in, when we are done with class, if you have questions, feel free to ask me. If not, the link is in my bio to sign up. The membership is only $27 a month. So we will have this class every week, and then there will be like additional group coaching sessions. There is a private community just for my members, and we have a good time. So what else? Rules. So if you have not been here before, I have a few rules. So the first rule is be honest with yourself. The things that we discuss in this class is only going to help you if you are honest with yourself. I do not work with anybody that is not willing to be honest with themselves. So this class is only going to benefit you. You're only going to gain something if you are absolutely honest with yourself 1,000%. That's the first rule. The second rule is this has to be a safe space, right? Because the things that we talk about are sensitive in nature, and I will not tolerate, this is not the platform for that. There are other places y'all can go to have the gender wars and all of that. This ain't it at all. We can have productive conversations, but there's got to be a safe space. So that means that no projecting your experiences on other people. You could talk about, in your experience, you've done this, but don't project your experience on other people. The other thing is no generalizing. So no all men this, all women that. Again, you can speak about the woman that you experienced, the man that you dated, but don't make that a grand statement for all men and women, because it's probably not true. It's just your experience. Okay. The last rule is I'm not a therapist. I'm a coach. The difference is the therapist looks backwards and figure out, how did you get here? Coaching is forward looking. I want to improve communication. How do I get you there? Okay. Everybody got it? So tonight we are talking about, how do you process your emotions, right? I've been saying this week after week that emotions are messengers. Even though we are taught to ignore our emotions, we are taught to suppress them. They don't feel good, so we don't want to explore them, but that is absolutely the worst thing that you can do, right? Your emotions are messengers, right? They are there to tell you something, right? Are you sad because you missed somebody? Are you angry because a boundary has been crossed? Are needs unmet, right? So they're there to tell you something. So today we are going to talk about, how do you know what it is your emotions are trying to tell you? Why do you need to know this? Because if you can understand what it is your emotions are trying to tell you, you can communicate. All right. the biggest reason that people have a hard time communicating in relationships, or they have the same relationship issues over and over again, is because they're not taking time to process what they are feeling, and they're just reacting out of their emotions, right? I think another issue, if you don't take time to process your emotions and you don't know what they're trying to tell you, I think you also, that's when you run the risk of being manipulated emotionally, right? When you leave yourself in a space vulnerable enough that other people are going to try to dictate what you should or should not feel, all right, that's when the manipulation comes in. So today we're going to talk about how do you process your emotion. I'm going to give you 5 steps for you to process your emotions. And this is going to help you resolve conflict a lot quicker, right? It's going to help you avoid conflict, right? Have you ever had those little arguments that like escalate for no reason? Yeah, you're going to be able to avoid those things. Now, maybe not immediately, but if you take the time to start to practice these things that I teach you today, right, after a while, you'll know, oh, that's not worth my time, or, oh, this is not the real issue. This is what, right? So we're going to do that. And then we're going to talk about you people that call yourselves overthinkers, all right, that end up in the same circle over same thoughts over and over and over again. And first, I'm going to tell you that all of you guys that call yourself overthinkers are not overthinkers. But for those of you that are, we're going to talk about how do you get out of that cycle and actually get to a resolution. So let me know if you guys are ready. Type ready in the comments. Share this if you need somebody else to see this. And then we're going to start this class off a little bit different. I am going to read to you a scenario. Ready. Perfect. I'm going to read to you guys a scenario. And what I need you to do is write down your response. Y'all got your pen and paper or whatever you are going to write with? Okay, so here's the scenario. And yes, I will repeat it a couple of times. So this is the scenario. You and your partner have been together for a while, and you make a conscious effort to show appreciation. So whether that is through small gestures, you might get a gift that, you were in the store, you were thinking about them, acts of service, just saying thank you, I appreciate you, whatever it is that they like. However, lately, you've noticed that your efforts seem to be one-sided. Maybe your partner is not saying thank you, they're not reciprocating that energy, and so as a result, you are starting to feel unseen and unappreciated. Okay, this is where we are. One evening, after a long day at work, you decide to come home and cook your partner a meal. Let me do something nice for them. They didn't even have to ask you. They don't say thank you. They take the food, sit on the couch, start scrolling on their phone. Okay? What is your response? Okay? So, I'm going to say it again. You and your partner have been together for a while. You try to make sure that your partner feels appreciated and valued, either small gestures, words of affirmation, doing things for them around the house, going to run errands that they need to do, doing a little extra with the kids so that they can relax at night, whatever it is. And you realize that you're not getting that same energy back. Okay? You're not getting that same energy back, so you're starting to feel unseen and unappreciated. One night you say, oh, let me do something nice for my partner. You come home after being at work all day and you cook your partner a nice dinner. They don't really give you, do we have a problem? They don't really give you too much. They just go sit on the couch with the food and start scrolling on their phone. So write down your answer too so y'all can remember them. So make sure y'all write it down somewhere. Okay. You'll stop doing it for them. Do we need to talk? You shut down. This was your ex, and you say absolutely not. Okay. Have a silent treatment. Okay. We're going to come back to this, but I just wanted to make sure y'all write your answer down. Okay. So, like I said, today we are talking about how to process your emotions. And so we want to make sure that the goal is for you to respond to your emotions as opposed to react to them. All right. So responding means you've taken the time to think about what you're feeling, to process how it makes you feel, and go and communicate that to your partner. When you react out of your emotions. That means your emotions are controlling you. You don't feel like you have control over it. So let me give you a few signs that you're skipping the process and self-reflection portion of this, right? So signs you are reacting instead of processing your emotions and responding. Okay. You say things in the heat of the moment that you later regret. You feel overwhelmed and struggle to articulate what you're actually feeling. You jump straight into an argument instead of taking time to think. You blame others for how you feel without first checking in with yourself. You feel like your emotions control you instead of the other way around. Your emotion lingers for days or weeks without resolution. You withdraw or shut down when faced with emotional discomfort. Which of these are you? Me? Which ones? Do any of those resonate with you guys? All of them? Okay.
It depends, but I would probably say at least some of them, if not all of them.
Okay, at least some of them. Okay. I appreciate you, right? You got to be honest because you can't change anything. You're all of them. Yeah, so this is how you know that you are not taking the time to process things. And what it does is it causes more problems, right? As opposed, I'm going to give you some examples in a second, but when you do that, right, things escalate a lot quicker than they need. Like, have you ever been like in a heated argument with somebody and later you was like, dang, maybe they was right, or dang, I shouldn't have said that. Right, that's another sign that you are reacting out of emotions. So reacting, when you are reacting, that means you have given somebody else control over you. And you don't want that. If somebody can elicit a reaction out of you just by playing on your emotions, or they know how to control, that's a bad situation to be in. You got to be tired. You ain't even have to do all that. Yeah. So let me give you this 5-step process. Just 5 steps. We ain't going to be here long tonight, okay? 5-step process to process your emotions. And so, membership ladies, you guys, if you guys downloaded the handouts, it's already written down for you guys, so you should already have that. And I'll have to repeat these a couple of times so you guys can write it down. So, the first thing that you need to do is to identify how you're feeling, right? What emotion are you experiencing? Was that last week we talked, or maybe a couple weeks ago, where we were talking about using the wheel of emotion. So you want to make sure that you are getting as specific as possible. All right. So go beyond just, oh, I'm mad, I'm sad, right? We talked about primary versus secondary emotion. You want to get to that secondary, dig deep. So the handouts, if you're in the membership community, the handouts were in the email and on the database, right? The dashboard. So number 1, identify how you are feeling. So make sure you use the wheel of emotion. Go past that primary emotion. Really dig deep. Are you disappointed? Are you embarrassed? Right? Whatever you are feeling, make sure you are getting to the root of it. That's the first step. The second thing is to identify what triggered the emotion, right? Last week we talked about emotional triggers, we talked about that last week. But identify what triggered this emotion. Like, when did you first notice that your energy shifted, or that, your emotions changed? Right? The specific action. And this is also important because when we get to communication, one of the things that I tell people all the time is, right, you have to be specific when you are talking to somebody about something they did to hurt your feelings. It's not helpful to say you always do X, Y, and Z. Because 1, they probably don't always do it. And 2, they're going to say, no, I don't. I didn't do it this time. And then where do you go from there? All right. So you got to make sure that you are being specific. And when you are specific, it gives people an opportunity to address that specific behavior. As opposed to you say, you always do X, Y, and Z. How do I can't, I can't talk. I can't justify or I can't explain myself. If you're going to say I always do something, because I probably don't. And it might be different reasons for why you did it today versus yesterday. So you want to make sure you are being specific. So number 1 is identify the emotions. Thanks, AZ Green, for putting it in there. Number 2 is identify what triggered the emotion. Okay. Now, this is where people don't do. This is where it gets deep. Number 3, you have to ask yourself, why did that trigger make you feel like this? Right? And so this is when you start to ask, like, is this something that this current person did? Or is this something that I'm projecting from the past experience? Okay, so number 3, dig deeper and ask, why did this action make you feel like this? Is it something that the person did in front of you, or is it something from the past that you're projecting? Okay. Number 4, once you have identified why it made you feel like that, is this a fact or a feeling? Thanks for putting them in the chat, y'all. Is this a fact or a feeling? All right. Remember, we talked about emotions versus feelings. Feelings is how you interpret what happened. Doesn't mean it's true. Okay. And then number 5, what's the point of going to talk to your partner about this? All right. Why are you going to go talk to your partner? Is there some type of corrective behavior you need them to do? Do you just need to vent? All right. And if it's something that you need them to do differently, you need to tell them what you need to be different. Okay. So I'm going to read them again, and then I'll give examples and we'll walk through each one. So number 1 is identify how you're feeling. So what emotion are you experiencing? Number 2, identify what triggered the emotion. Hey, positive outbreak. Number 3, dig deeper and ask you, why did this make you feel like that? Number 4, is this a fact or a feeling? And number 5, determine the purpose of bringing this up to your partner. What is it that you need from them to be different moving forward? And if it's something that you need to be different, you need to tell them exactly what that is. Thank you. Okay. So there is one example that I always like to use. Do you guys watch Married at First Sight? That's like one of my favorite shows. I like it more than Love is Blind. But do y'all watch Married at First Sight? Yes. Okay. So if you don't, they literally get married at first sight. And so a couple of seasons ago, I think it was season 13. I actually made a video about this. Season 13, let me see what their names was. Let me pull up the video. I wonder if maybe I could just show y'all the video. Hold it. Let me find the video. 5 things before you actually, without saying anything to me. Who was it? Michaela and Zach. I won't show y'all the video. I'll just explain what happens in the situation. So Zach and Michaela. So they were asleep. Zach wakes up, I guess, on like a Saturday morning to go play basketball. He doesn't say anything to her before he leaves. Michaela wakes up. Zach is not there. She gets in her feelings about it. She packs her stuff and she leaves. They come back later. He like, what's wrong? She like, nothing, which is a lie. Something was absolutely wrong. he asked her again. She's still saying nothing is wrong. They end up talking to Pastor Cal later. And what it turns out is that she felt abandoned. When she woke up and he was not in the bed with her, she felt abandoned because her father had just passed away. Okay. So instead of her packing up her stuff and leaving, if she had processed this, what she would have realized is that what she was feeling was abandonment. And number two, what was the trigger? Her waking up and her husband not being there. 3, digging deeper. Why did it make her feel like this? Because she had just lost her father, and so she's already dealing with abandonment issues. And number 4, is this a feeling or effect? It definitely was an effect that he abandoned her. He went to go play basketball. That was a feeling. Right? And then 5, determining the purpose of bringing it up. So what she should have said was, hey, when you left without saying anything, it made me feel abandoned, right? Because of my dad. Moving forward, can you just send me a text before you leave out, even if I'm asleep, right? The only other thing I would add, so maybe this should have been 6. Hope Bentley wants to say hi, guys. Say hi, Bent. And say hi. And say hi. Look, she said hi. So the other thing, maybe I would make this a asterisk, or maybe it goes under step before. Maybe this is step 4.5. I would ask, before you decide to go and talk to your partner, ask yourself, is this a me, them, or us problem? Me, them, or us. So in the situation I was just giving you with Michaela, her feeling abandoned, it was really a her problem, but there was something that he could do to make her feel better, right? But sometimes it's a me problem, and I got to get over it on my own, right? If I am solely projecting on my partner and they didn't do anything, it's something that I have to grow and heal through. That's a me problem. And maybe I don't need to talk to my partner about that. Maybe I actually need to go and apologize. All right. So that would be like 4.5, maybe under 5. Is it a me, them, or us problem? Okay. So let's go back to what would be an example of a them or an us problem. Okay. So an example of a them problem. Let's say your partner doesn't like to apologize. Your partner doesn't like to take accountability for their actions. And so you bring up something that has bothered you. You have said it respectfully. You have said it effectively, right? You've used the sentence that I keep telling you, right? I felt when you did this, moving forward, can you do X, Y, and Z, right? The magic sentence I give y'all every week. Let's say you've done all the things that you can do, and they still get upset. That's a them problem. They don't want to take accountability. You did everything you could in that situation to try to resolve. Hey, Faith, you did everything you could in that situation or in that problem, in that instance, to try to resolve it as amicably as you could, as calmly as you could, and they still get upset. Oh, my phone is not charging. They still get upset. They still don't want to take accountability. That's a them problem. You keep trying to talk to your partner, right? They won't communicate with you. That's a them problem. It's nothing you can do about it, right? So if it's a them problem, it's something that they have to work on. If it's a us problem, then that probably means that we both contributed to this. So an us problem, a common one that I run into is that people have different conflict resolution styles. And so if I want things to be resolved right away, oh, my phone is dying. Why is my charger not working? Hold on, let me try to download it on my other phone. And you need time to think about it. There might be something that's an us problem. both of us need to work on it. We need to compromise. But it's plugged in, so I don't understand why it's not. And it say it's charging. Let me try to download TikTok on my other phone. Right? So that's a us problem. So it's a us problem. What part did I say? The example. If I need to resolve things right away and they need time to think about it, right? We're likely going to bump heads because I'm going to be asking because I might be anxious. Are we okay? Are we okay? Are we okay? They need time to think about it, so they're pushing me away, right? That's a us problem. We both need to do something to resolve this conflict. What if they don't get upset, but they just make excuses for the behavior? So if they make excuses for the behavior, that leads me to believe that you are focusing on the behavior and not how the behavior made you feel. Right? Which is why I always say the focus should be on how I felt like this when you did that. Right? It doesn't matter why they did it, because sometimes your feelings can still be hurt even if they meant to do it. If you don't like conflict, how can you resolve the issue? You have to understand that conflict is inevitable. It's how you deal with it that matters. And conflict does not have to be yelling, screaming. I don't yell. I don't argue. I don't do any of those things. So it doesn't have to be the screaming, the yelling, the fighting. Because I don't what? Yell at me? Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. So you have to understand that conflict is inevitable. It's how you handle it that matters. So to get the handouts, you have to be inside the membership community. And so if you are interested in joining the membership community, you actually get the opportunity to watch on Zoom over here, and then you will have the actual handouts. I'm trying to join in from my other phone before this one dies. Oh. I don't know the password. You wait until you're at what point, TT? When you can have a conversation? Yes, focusing on the behavior is not what you want to do, right? So for the situation I was just given where Zach left the house without him leaving, yes, that is what triggered it, but the concern is how it made her feel. Right? Because explaining, well, if she just say, well, don't leave the house if I'm asleep, doesn't resolve anything, versus you leaving the house makes me feel abandoned. If I wake up and nobody's here, I feel abandoned, right? Now that it also helps him to understand other things that he should probably avoid doing to make you feel like that. So it's the actual action is not what you want to focus on. And a lot of times people try to defend their action. It does not matter whether they meant it or not. It's how it made you feel that you need to address. Does that make sense? No, focus on how the behavior made you feel. It don't matter the behavior. It does not matter the behavior. Right? You didn't wash the dishes. All right, yeah, I didn't. Why does that matter? Because now it's not that they didn't wash the dishes, it's because I feel overwhelmed that now I have to do the dishes after working all day, coming home, cooking, putting the kids to bed, and now I gotta wash the dishes. So it's about you feeling overwhelmed, not the fact that they didn't wash the dishes. Yes, that might made you feel overwhelmed, but you want to focus on you being overwhelmed, not the fact that they didn't wash it. Well, I'll go wash it now. Or my bad. That doesn't help. Does that make sense? I'm trying to remember my... I'm trying to think of my password so I can log in. Does that make sense? Correct. You cannot make anybody do anything. You can't change anybody. You don't care if they did it meant to do it on purpose or not. It's how it made you feel that needs to be addressed so that they know not to do that again. What if they say they aren't responsible for your feelings? So to an extent they are. If they do something to make you feel a certain way, I think if they care about you, they should apologize for that. Like if they are the cause of you feeling a certain way, right? And especially if you're not projecting a past experience on them, right? And yes, it is still your responsibility to deal with it, right? They don't have to necessarily deal with it, but they should at least apologize and understand what it is they need to not do to make you feel like that again. Now, if they're not willing to, if I tell you something that you did makes me feel like this and you just want to continue to do it, you know, what if the behavior is dangerous? Can you give me an example? How can you use emotional intelligence? I'll come back to questions. Let me get through the lesson and then I'll come back. So how do you deal with it even if they apologize? So, right, this is right. Step 5 is what is the corrective behavior that you need moving forward. So yes, they can apologize for how they made you feel, but you have to understand what you want to be different next time. So for the example I'm giving with Michaela and Zach, where he left the house and it made her feel abandoned and he didn't say anything. The corrective behavior, what she should have said was, instead of just saying nothing's wrong, I'm cool, she should have said, hey, it makes me feel abandoned when I wake up and you're not here because I literally just lost my dad. Moving forward, can you at least send me a text to let me know, hey, I'm leaving, I'm going to play basketball if I'm asleep. Right? So how do you, yes, they can apologize, but you have to tell them what you need to be different next time. If you're going to be late, can you just let me know that you're running late? Right? So you have to also understand what it is that you need so that you can communicate that to your partner. Okay? So I'll read the 6 things again and then we're going to move on to overthinking. Let me see. I wonder if I should put I'll go for as long as I can, and if this phone dies, then I will. I don't know why it's plugged up and everything and it's still not working, but I'll switch phones if so let me give you these 6 things again, then we're going to talk about overthinking. So 6 steps to process your emotions before going to talk to your partner. So number 1, identify the emotion that you are experiencing. Make sure you are going past the primary emotion and get into the secondary emotion so you truly understand what it is you are feeling. Number 2, identify what triggered this emotion. Number 3, dig deeper and ask, why did that action, behavior, or whatever, that trigger make you feel like this? Number 4, ask, is this a feeling or a fact? So is this something that your person currently did? Are you filling in the gaps? Are you interpreting this based on past experiences? Are you projecting? All of those things. 4.5 is this a me, them, or us problem? And then number 5, why are you going to talk to your partner about this? Do you need them to do something differently? Do you just want to vent? Do you just want to make them aware of this? Like, you got to have a purpose behind every conversation. Like, that is one of the things I think I ask people a lot. Like, even my friends, they would tell me like, oh, how does this sound? Like, people text me all the time. Like, I need to say this to my person. Like, does this sound okay? And I always ask, what is it that you're hoping to get out this conversation? Like, you have to know before you even go into the conversation, or you're just going to be talking and just talking and talking for what? and somebody like me, I got ADHD. You got to tell me up front why we having this conversation. Otherwise, I'm going to be lost. And if people don't tell me, I ask, like, hold on, before you jump in, like, are you just venting? Are you waiting for, like, response? Do you need a sounding board? It also helps me to understand what to pay attention to and what I know is just fluff. Thank you. Right? So you got to understand, why are you going to talk to your partner? Thanks, Ayana. What is it that you want to get across? What are you hoping to get out of this? Okay. So let me give you some examples first, and then I'll go into overthinking. I have like 3 examples here. Your partner forgot to check in after work. If your partner forgot to check in after work. If you are just I probably froze. I go live every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the first example is your partner forgot to check in after work. If you are just reacting out of emotions, you might say, you never think about me. I guess I don't matter to you. That's something I would say, because I'm pretty dramatic. I'm going to exaggerate every time. Versus if you stop and process before you respond, and you can tell them, right, when you don't check in, I feel unimportant. I really appreciate a quick text when you get off work. I just had to have this conversation with the new friend because they work late. Oh, can you just let me know when you make it home? Okay. Example number 2. Let's say your friend cancels plans at the last minute. If you are reacting out of your emotions, you could just say, well, I guess I'm not a priority. Thanks for wasting my time. Versus if you take time to process this, you could say, I was really looking forward to spending time together. Can we reschedule? All right. The third example I'll give you is your boss gives you constructive criticism. Why are you always picking on me? I can't do anything right. That used to be me. That's actually how I learned about emotional intelligence. Versus if you take time to process it, you could say, I feel frustrated because I put a lot of work into this project, right? What can I do differently next time? Right? So you can see, like, being emotionally intelligent is really about avoiding unnecessary drama. Thank you. Thanks for the gift, right? It's about, right? And sometimes people like to be petty, they like to be childish, and I'm like, well, you're not emotionally intelligent. Like, that's not the point of it. Like, you have to be the bigger person sometimes. Like, it's just, you have to realize it's not helpful. It doesn't move the agenda forward, right? Like, being emotionally intelligent, you have to understand that everything is not worth it, right? Yes, it is preventing the escalation. Because with your friends canceling, right? Thanks for wasting my time. And now they gonna say something back. And now you gotta say something back. Versus you could just say, I was looking forward to spending time with you. Can we reschedule? Conflict avoided. Okay. So let's go back to the scenario I read to y'all in the beginning when I asked y'all to write. Let's see if y'all change your answers or can give me a better response. Let me read it to you again. You and your partner have been together for a while, and you make a conscious effort to show appreciation, whether it's through small gestures, picking up something small in the store you think they would like, words of affirmation, acts of service, whatever it is. But lately, you feel like you're not getting that same energy back. And so now you're starting to feel like your efforts are one-sided. You now feel unseen, unappreciated, unvalued. One day you decide, oh, I've been at work all day. Let me go home and cook my partner a nice meal. They ain't even have to ask you. You go, maybe make their favorite meal. They come home, grab the plate, go sit on the couch, start scrolling on the phone, don't even say thank you. In the beginning, a lot of you said that you would shut down. Some of you said you would have a conversation, which makes me happy. But for those of you that would shut down, right, I gave you the list. Now you know that is a reaction, and you ain't think about it. What's your new response? What do you think a better response would be? That's your problem. Yeah, it's a lot of people's problem. It's not just you. You're a drama queen. Yeah. Some people like it, right? And here's the thing. being emotionally intelligent, I always tell people this, right? It doesn't mean that you're not going to cuss somebody out. It just means you think about it before you do it. That's the difference. You might still cuss them out, but just think about it first and make sure that's really what you want to do. As long as you stop and process it and you feel like that's the right response, you would still approach it and use it. So let's use the one I gave you. So, you're gonna not start right away. Maybe you're not gonna go and knock the plate out the hand. Okay, let's say that, and you're gonna say, "Hey, even though it's not about this one dinner, right? This has been going on. This has been going on, right? You've been feeling like, thank you, Lisa, you've been doing things for them and it's been one-sided. Like, you don't feel like it's just over one dinner, right? And so it's not about this one dinner. It's the fact that, hey, you've been feeling unappreciated lately, right? So you're going to pause. You're going to take a moment. Why am I feeling this way? It's not about the dinner. It's because lately you have been doing these things, and you can give specific examples of things that you have been doing to try to make your partner feel appreciated, but they have not been reciprocated, right? They have not said thank you. They have not been doing things to make sure you feel seen, heard, and understood. All right? And then you're going to ask yourself, what is it that you want? You want to be acknowledged more. You want to know that you are appreciated and valued. You would like for your partner to give you that same energy. Just like you thought about coming home and making dinner for them, even though you worked all day, you want them to have the same consideration for you. It may not look the same, because reciprocity doesn't always look identical. It may be instead you like French fries, so every once in a while, get you some French fries. They know you like coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, bring you home an iced coffee. Right? And so when you go to talk to them, hey, I've been feeling a little unappreciated lately, and I would really appreciate you if you just say, hey, thanks for doing that. I appreciate that. Oh, I got you some French fries because I was near your favorite French fries store. Right? So you don't have to shut down and withdraw. The other thing is that it means the problem is over a lot quicker. Hey, I felt unappreciated when I cooked dinner for you last night and you didn't say anything. Moving forward, can you at least say thank you? Boom. Problem over. You don't got to shut down. You don't got to give them a silent treatment for days. You can go right back to, see what I'm saying? Like, you see how it moves things along? So to be emotionally intelligent, you can't be both emotionally intelligent and like to hold on to things. Right? Life is rough. Save the arguments for the stuff that really matters. Right? Save the arguments for the stuff that really matters. If you can divert the crisis and make de-escalate things just by using that one sentence and saying it as nicely as possible, why wouldn't you do that? Mm-hmm. So what if they say you didn't even give me time to say thank you? So I think it would, are you waiting for them to say thank you as soon as they pick up the plate? So I think, that's just something that you have the conversation about. And so if this wasn't just the only instance, right, you could say, okay, maybe I didn't give you enough time tonight, but that's because this has been ongoing. When I did this for you on Tuesday, you didn't say thank you. When I did this on this, I don't feel appreciated for that. I did this for you. And again, this is not to throw things in your face, but I have been trying to show you that I appreciate you, and it doesn't seem that it's being received well. I'm so glad you got permission to feel. Do you like it? Yeah, it actually should come right away. But if it doesn't, right, maybe that's a conversation, or they deep in thought and they're just not thinking about it. But if that's a situation, right, because at least in this situation, this has been going on, and so this wasn't the first instance, then you can bring up the other examples. But again, specific examples. Yep, good. Time, big Scorpio energy. Tell them exactly how you feel. I like that. Tristan's mama. Hey, babe, you good? How was your dinner? I've noticed a little distance. What's wrong? I like that. You would ask them if they like the food. So I love that you guys are coming up with ways to, broach the conversation as opposed to just shutting down. That's amazing. Yep. Think about it as you eat. Yep. All of these are good things. When you say, are we doing it for validation? What are we doing? What for validation? Well, in this situation, it says you were doing it to make sure that they feel appreciated. So you're doing nice things for them because that's who you are, but they're not reciprocating the energy, or they're not saying thank you or anything like that. So in this situation, it doesn't sound like it's for validation. Okay. Let's go on to your deliverance. Yep. We're going to get to that. Let's talk about overthinking. And so the reason that I said in the beginning that a lot of people, overthinking is like one of these things that have become, do I think it's a difference if it's platonic? I don't think so. I don't think it's a difference if it's platonic. Like I said, all of this stuff that I teach, even though I teach it, so that it's one of the examples I gave you was with a friend. Your friend cancels plans at the last time. So instead of saying, wow, thanks for wasting my time, you could just say, hey, I was looking forward to spending time with you. Can we reschedule? So it doesn't, like I said in the beginning, I talk about this stuff in the context of romantic relationships, but it works for anything. Okay. So let's go over overthinking. So the reason that I say that all of you are not overthinkers the way that you think that you are, I think overthinking has become like one of these buzz terms, right? Like narcissism. People use that wrong all the time as well. Like that's actually like a mental health diagnosis. Like you have to be diagnosed with narcissism from a therapist, but everybody's a narcissist nowadays. That's another conversation. But I think overthinking or being an overthinker has kind of taken on the same role. But I don't believe that everybody is an overthinker the way that they think that they are. So overthinking is when you are kind of replaying the situation over and over again in your head, but you are not getting to any type of resolution. Okay. I think there is a difference between overthinking and filling in the gaps when you are missing information. Sometimes I think somebody, our partner, whomever, can put us in a situation where they have not given us all of the information. Let's just say, hey, you had a date. 30 minutes before the date, they text you, hey, I can't make it. And you are now sitting trying to figure out why they can't make it. Are they not interested anymore? Do they hate you? I don't consider that overthinking. I consider that you do not have all the information, and our brain naturally fills in the gaps of information, and it is actually natural to fill it in with negative information. I had one of my therapist friends on my podcast, and she was talking about that, how our brain is kind of wired to fill in the gaps with negative information. Right. I think that is different than if you have all the information and you still replaying stuff over and over and over, or you making up your own definition and your own interpretation. That's different. But for some of you, you are just operating with the lack of information, and that's not overthinking. That means you need to ask questions to fill in the gaps. All right. So just saying, hey, I can't make dinner tonight is different than saying, hey, I had an emergency with my child, so I can't make dinner. Can we reschedule? Two totally different things. Because if somebody said, hey, I had an emergency with my child, I had to take my child to the hospital, I'm not going to make it tonight, you're probably not going to continue to overthink that. They told you why they cannot make it. Now, if you still overthink it at that point, then now you're an overthinker. Now, if it's you just filling in the gaps, how do you know if you have all the information or you're connecting the dots? Ask yourself, where did this come from? Did this person tell me this, or did I make it up? You know if you make something up. Hold on, Bentley wants to get out. You know if you made something up. If it's a feeling, I feel like, did they tell you this or you made it up? You know if you're making something up. So when you're overthinking, you are replaying the situation over and over again without a resolution. You are creating false narratives, or you're exaggerating. Or you might make yourself feel worse with anxiety and, emotional distress. Filling in a gap, on the other hand, is acknowledging that you don't have enough information yet. Right? You need to ask questions instead of assuming the worst. Check in with the other person instead of jumping to conclusion. Jumping to conclusion is a sign of a lack of emotional intelligence. Like, you made that up. I remember I had a client one time, and she was dating this guy, and she came into one session like, I think I'm done with him. And I said, well, why? And she said something along the lines, like, she thought he wasn't a good father. And I said, well, how did you get to that conclusion? Because they were supposed to, he was going to, his kids lived out of state. He was going to the state where his kids live. And she asked him, like, oh, are you going to see your kids while you're there? He said no. So to her, that meant he's not a good parent. I said, well, did you ask him why? The kids weren't even there. They weren't home. Like, what? You made it up that he's not a good parent because he said he's not going to see his kids while he's in their state. They weren't even there. He couldn't see them if he wanted to. All right, so let's say your partner doesn't text you back, or somebody doesn't text you back. If you're overthinking, they didn't text me back. What if they're ignoring me on purpose? Maybe they don't love me. Maybe they don't like me anymore. Versus if you're going to fill in the gaps, I don't know why they haven't responded. Let me see. Or let me assume before, let me check in before assuming the worst. Yes, he should have said, right? So the episode of my podcast with my therapist friend, so she says she often has to work with couples about sharing the whole thought. Right? Sharing the whole thought. Right? So, no, I'm not going to see my kids. Versus, like you said, no, I'm not going to see my kids because they're not in town. Hey, okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. Literally, my phone was on the charger and it died. I don't know what's wrong with it. So sorry, guys. Yes, I'm back. I thought I was going to lose you guys. So we were talking about overthinking versus filling in the gap. And so you gotta know the difference, right? And so for those of you that feel like you're an overthinker, or the last situation that you overthought, why do you feel like you kept thinking about it? Is it that you didn't believe what you were? No switch, because my computer is charging just fine. So is it that you didn't believe what the person told you? I don't know what this filter is about. If you think you're an overthinker, what is it that it felt unresolved? Okay. You had unanswered questions, right? And so don't sit there and rack your brain. Go ask the questions. Go ask the questions. You weren't given enough. Go ask the questions that you need to know. But I will say this, even though I don't know what this filter is, I look real brown. But I will say this, even though, make sure it is really, you really need to understand. You really need that information, right? So for an example, I think something that is common that I think is not a good idea, right? If somebody finds out their partner is cheated on them, and they go and ask them how many times, you don't need that information. You don't need that information. So you have to make sure that the information that you are seeking really makes a difference. either you didn't get everything out. So I used to be that way too. And I think that's another benefit of taking time to process your emotions in advance, right? I used to be like that. I've learned that even as a lawyer, I am not quick on my feet, right? I have to make sure that I am prepared. And so I am one of those people that I need time to process things. So whenever I start talking to somebody new, look, if we ever have an issue, I promise I'm going to come back to it. I just need time to process it, because what I learned is, before I realized that about myself, I would say something thinking that the conversation is over, and I'd be like, dang, I should have said this. Now I got to go back, and I got to keep going back. And I would feel bad about having to keep bringing the same stuff up over and over again. And so now what I do is I make sure I give myself the time, even if they realize, like, because a lot of times, or I've been fortunate enough to be dating guys and they recognize that something is wrong. I'm okay for right now, or I'm not quite ready to talk about it. Because sometimes I can process it on my own and I don't even need to have a conversation with them. Sometimes I do, but I think about how I'm going to have the conversation. What do I need to say? What do I not need to say? Just because it's true doesn't mean it needs to be said. Is this really going to advance the goal? What am I trying to get out of this? What am I trying to tell them? All right, so processing will also help you with that feeling like, oh, dang, I didn't get everything off my chest. You said you're better in writing than face-to-face because you got to think stuff through. So I would only say, in terms of writing, be careful, because if you are like texting somebody, tone and all of that is left up for interpretation. So it's okay if you write things out, but then I would still have a conversation face-to-face. Because tone is a big part of communication, which is, like some of you guys said, right? It's always my delivery. So you have to make sure that you are delivering it in a way that your partner can receive. And if it is just in writing, it's up for interpretation, and they may not assume the best intent. What if asking question leads to an argument? So I think you just have to understand, what information you really need, how to ask the question to get what you want. And you also have to understand who it is you are dealing with. Right? Some people are not going to answer you, right? Especially if you're asking about something that they did wrong. You might not get the answer that you need. Does that mean you truly need it? I think I told y'all this story before, where one of my former clients, she was in a situationship, and the guy she was in a situationship with, she saw that he posted pictures. He was on vacation with another girl. Again, situationship. So she was saying that she wasn't upset about it, but she wanted to ask him. Or like, and she was like, they finally was on the phone, and she was like, so you're not going to tell me about the vacation? And I asked her, well, what is it that you wanted him to say? You saw what you saw. I think sometimes what also happens is we ask questions we already know the answer to. And when you ask questions you already know the answer to, you are giving that person an opportunity to explain it away. She saw what she saw. She saw he posted, it was in his like stories, and it was like whatever he was drinking, and it was a wine glass. Clearly, he's with a lady. And I said, well, what is it that you wanted him to tell you? You saw what you saw. When you asked him about it, you were giving him an opportunity to say, oh no, that was my cousin. Oh no, that was my sister. She need to ask that man that question. Yeah, sometimes I used to be like that in terms of having to write, and sometimes I still do have to write things out. So I have quite a few of my friends are therapists, so sometimes I write it out and I send it to them first, like just to make sure it's saying what I needed to say and it's not rude, or right. I can be blunt, even as much as I practice and I try not to be. Sometimes the Philly come out, and so I do have to ask like my friends sometimes, like, is this okay? Yeah, if you're on the spot, you lash out, right? That's what we're trying to avoid doing. All right, that's what we're trying to avoid. You can't hear me anymore? Can you guys hear me? I didn't touch it. Okay, you guys can still hear. Okay. So let's go back to the reflection question for this week. The reflection question for this week was, when you experience strong emotions, what do you think they are trying to tell you? Right? And I asked you to think back to a recent situation where you felt consumed with your emotions. What do you feel like your emotions were trying to tell you? Right? Did you guys answer the reflection question? Now that you understand how to process them. I missed something. I can't see. Yeah, you have to process because you don't want to be rude anymore. Yeah. And I'm telling you, it's going to take time, but once you get to that place where you are able to process your emotions and address things in a way that is healthy, that can resolve the conflict quicker, or even avoid it, right? You'll understand, right? Is this a me, them, or us thing? Okay, there's something that they need to work on, something that I need to work on, something that we both need to do. And you can tell them exactly. I was having a conversation recently, and I was asking, I think I was in a consultation, and I was asking her if she had told her fiance about, right, the things that she had an issue with. And she said, yeah. And he said he didn't know how to fix it. Right, whatever the thing is that she brought up. And I said, well, did you tell him? And she said, no. I said, well, and I said, you don't know. And she said, no. I said, well, if you don't know what you need, he's not going to know. All right. And so I think this is like one of the, if you can master this, communication becomes 1,000% easier. Yes. What evidence do I have to support this thought that I'm having? That's a good one. And so sometimes it also is important to have those so that you can go and share with somebody. Like, instead of like, I don't like when people talk in like conclusory statements. Like, oh, you're a narcissist. What does that mean? I need specific examples. What did they do to make you feel like X, Y, and Z? If you just start, you're a narcissist. What does that mean? People also put like their own spin on things. So I never let people talk in conclusory terms or ambiguous terms like that. Yep, that you need to stay calm and think about what's real. You think your emotions are trying to warn you of red flags. Are you listening? And if you're not listening to the red flags, I think the second question is, why aren't you listening? All right, so the goal of what I'm trying to help you guys do is to avoid reacting impulsively so that you can communicate better. All right, that's why I'm giving you these step by step. I am an actionable person. I'm probably never, hopefully never going to get up here and just say, oh, you got to do this. No, I'm going to break it down for you. Probably just because that's how my brain works. But after a while, will you have to sit down and say, okay, step 1, what am I feeling? Step 2, what trick? No, after a while, it becomes automatic. But when you are just learning how to do these things, right, this is why I like to break things down into steps as often as I can, so that, when the next time you are triggered, grab your journal and go through these things. Get out your wheel of emotion. Okay, what am I feeling? What triggered this? Why did it make me feel like this? Am I projecting, or did this person really give me a reason to feel like this? Is this a fact or a feeling, right? What's the fact? Or is this a feeling in terms of how I'm interpreting things? That's where a lot of people go wrong, a fact versus a feeling. I just felt like that meant, what? All right. Is this a me, them, or us problem? Is this something that I need to work on? If so, what do I need to work on doing differently moving forward? What do I need them to work on moving forward? And is it still worth a conversation? Why am I going to talk to them about this? Do I need them to change their behavior? If so, what do I need to be differently? All right. And when you, and I give y'all this sentence every week, I felt like X when you did this on Saturday. Moving forward, can you do this instead? I felt abandoned when I woke up and you weren't in the bed next to me on Saturday. Moving forward, can you just send me a text before you leave the house if I'm asleep? Why do you hold on to feelings that happened from something bad? Because you haven't processed the emotions. So here's the thing. Emotions have to run their course. There is nothing that you could do to flip a switch. None of that. Right? So there is no time frame for your emotions. As long as you understand your emotion and what's going on, right? And it's usually, we talked about this when we talked about the feelings versus emotions. Emotions don't usually last that long. It's the feeling that lingers. Your feelings are your interpretation of what happened. I wish there was a switch too. Why do you treat some friendships as relationships? I'm not sure what that means. How do you separate / identify feelings and emotions versus thoughts, like surface level, like going deeper? So we did a whole lesson on how to identify your emotions and emotions versus feelings versus secondary emotions. I encourage you, TB, to go look at that episode. It should be on, it's up on YouTube. It might be week 3 where we talked about, so your feelings and emotions are two different things. Your emotions are, right, anger, sadness, disappointment. Those are the things that happen naturally. Your feelings are how you interpret the situation. Your partner didn't answer the phone or it's coming home late. You might be disappointed or angry. You feel like they might be out cheating. Can you help a partner process their emotions? You can ask them these questions. You can ask them questions. Just like I just taught y'all how to do it. You can teach them. Okay, so yeah, it's going to be in week 3, the power of your emotions. I mean, week 3 was identifying your emotions. So that's the one that's going to talk about feelings versus emotions, right? Go watch them all. You want to give them the will? Yeah, that works, right? Believe it or not, right? There are people, like I have clients and they come in and they were not raised. This is not just men, like women too. Were not raised to recognize and appreciate their emotions. And so sometimes I do have to pick one. So you can feel your emotions, but there is a difference. And I know sometimes people use feelings and emotions interchangeably, but those are two different things. Your emotions are, right, that's the happiness, that's the sadness, that's the anger, disappointment, being ashamed, being happy, being joyful. Those are emotions. Your feelings are how you process or interpret those things. He didn't answer the phone. I'm sad. That's my emotion. I feel like that means he don't like me anymore. You was not raised to address your emotions. A lot of people weren't, which is why I always tell you, right? It's not that whole thing that women are more emotional than men and men are more logical is not true. Emotions are a matter of nurture, not nature. So your homework is to, next time you are feeling an emotion, is to go through this 6-step process. Write it down. For those of you in the membership community, you actually have a few handouts in your little packet thingy. So you have the notes with all of the stuff written down that we talked about in class, but there are 2 worksheets in your packet. Let me pull them up real quick so I can explain those to you. So you have the study guide, and then you have one worksheet to talk about how do you process your emotions versus overthinking. And then there is another worksheet. Oh, is the only one? Is it only that one? I thought it was 2 different worksheets. So there's an overthinking versus reality, a checklist in there for you guys. Reacting versus responding exercise, and then how to process. So 3 different exercises in there for you guys in the membership community. If you guys are not in the membership community, you can still join us. The EQ for Love membership community. What we do is we're going to have this class every week. Of course, in the membership, this class is only until May 30th on TikTok. And then I don't know how much I'm showing up over here. But if you join the membership community, you have the opportunity to join us on Zoom. So like when class is over, I will probably continue to talk to them on Zoom. You can actually talk back to me. There are also group coaching sessions, probably 2 a month. And there is also a private community to talk in between sessions. The membership community is only $27 a month. So I understand my one-on-one services is not an ideal for everybody, but the membership community is a place for you to still get that support and be around like-minded people that are trying to grow and all of that. So there's spaces to vent. There's spaces to, get help, whatever you need. Once this EQ 101 is over, I will also be bringing in guest speakers. So fortunate for me, I have lots of friends that are therapists, and so I will have them come in and teach class. Like, it's really dependent on you guys, right? This membership is for the members. So there is a survey that I ask you to take when you join, so that I have a better understanding of what it is that you guys want to work on. And so based on that, once this class is over, I will start to invite other people to teach the classes and also to give me a break. But the link to join the membership community is in my bio. Like I said, it's $27 a month, and it's going to be a good time over here. You're currently reading Permission to Feel, and definitely makes you feel like things that you had buried. Yep. Don't be scared, AZ Green. It's worth it. Look, and this is what I always say, right? Doing this type of work, I commend you guys. Some of you guys have shown up every week, or going to watch the replays, and I commend you, because doing this work is not easy, right? It's not easy to look yourself in the mirror and say, oh, I'm the reason that things are the way that they are in my life. But the good thing about that is that also means that you are the one that can change it. All right, and you can be healthier and happier. I feel like my life got a whole lot easier once I started implementing these things into my life. I'm not as stressed out. I don't let people stress me out. I learned how to communicate. I don't hold stuff in anymore. I set boundaries without feeling guilty. Right? There's really a lot of benefits to this. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. So yes, I know I come and I teach these things, but you may not be able to, starting tomorrow, automatically know how to process your emotions, right? But the thing is, you guys are getting the tools, and that if you really work at it, you will get a lot better with it. You just learned about the wheel of emotion last year in therapy. Jake, when people say feel your feelings, they probably mean your emotions. Like I said, feelings and emotions are used interchangeably a lot of times. I am just making a distinction for you guys so that you are aware when you are experiencing an emotion versus a feeling that you are projecting based on your past experience, so you know the difference. Do you guys have any questions before I go and talk to my community members? Any more questions? I think next week we are going to talk about how to manage your emotions. So like not flying off the handle and all of that. I think that's next week. Yeah, that'll probably be next week. So how to process or how to handle, how to manage your emotions. And then I think the one after that, we're going to talk about how to know what you want and need in a partner, in a relationship. Next week needs to hurry up. Yeah, so we're going to talk about it. How do you manage it? So when you're feeling an emotion, how do you zip your lips? How do you make sure that you don't fly off the handle? How do you make sure you don't withdraw? That'll be that's next week. Any other questions? Grief specifically, I mean, we can talk about it next week. I don't know that I'll have a whole separate class on grief. Anything in particular that you mean, like how to get over it, or? I'm glad you enjoyed it. Okay, so I will see you guys how to process it because I can't. We might be able to talk about grief as a part of next class. I'll see how I can fit that in there for you. Let me write that down before I forget. But I will say this, like with things like grief, like I was just mentioning, there is no time frame for your emotions. So it may just be a matter of time. But I'll see how I can add that in there for next week. But if you guys don't have any other questions, I will see you guys next week. Make sure you guys are working on processing your emotion. Go back through old situations that you guys have had, and figure out maybe if there's a better way that you could have communicated those emotions, or what they were really trying to tell you, or what you can do better next time, right? This is self-reflection, is how you get better, right? Even if you don't actually go back and have the conversation, but think about a situation that you had or a conflict that you had that maybe escalated unnecessarily. Now that you're calmer, you can think about, okay, well, maybe this is what I really felt, and maybe how you could do better differently, how you can do better next time. Okay? And so this replay will be up over the weekend sometime. Just give me a second to get it out. If you're interested in joining the membership community, please go ahead and do. If you have questions, feel free to send me a message, and I will see you guys next week.